year has been one of the most unexpected, uncertain, and unpredictable years that I have ever walked through. It started with such momentum. Everything I had worked for felt like it was in alignment. I felt grounded, confident, and ready to take on the next level. I earned a 40 Women to Watch award, hosted several events with Sweating Together for a Cause, had multiple articles written about the impact we were making in our community, and I even self-published my first book, The Badass Blueprint, on Amazon. Then, steadily, a shift happened. My health took a turn that I am still trying to recover from because of my progressive GI condition. A full-time job that I really thought was going to be my future steadily started to feel a little unstable, requiring me to get a consistent second job. Because of that, I was working 70 to 80 hours a week, most weeks working 7 days a week, burning myself to no end, hoping and praying that this miracle that I really thought was coming would still come to fruition. Well, friends, if you've been listening, you know that I've lost my job. That full-time job, that company announced a sudden closure, no warning, no severance, nothing to even fall back on after giving my soul for 2 years to build it from literal dirt. The plans I had built from my years around leading up to this moment really started to feel like they were unraveling. And you know the hardest part I'm realizing of all of this is that if we're being completely honest, I did not see this coming. I really didn't, because the year had started off so strong, and I felt like after the last 2 years of recovering from a traumatic brain injury that I deserved to have some semblance of success, normalcy, and a break. But that was not going to happen. And I'm realizing now that there's this moment right after life throws you a curveball where the rug gets pulled out from underneath you, where you're just left standing in the debris wondering what now. That's where I've been since Saturday night. On Saturday, we had our final day of classes, a small, simple gathering where we bar crawled with some of our members, and then I was faced to walk home alone. And as I walked home, I literally cried the entire way, because I realized in that moment that this thing that I knew was coming, that had been lingering over my head for the last 30 days, was over. And that is what inspired this episode, because emotional resilience isn't built when everything is working. It's built when you're first to hold the pieces of your life in your hands and figure out how the hell you're going to rebuild. Because you're not the same person. Hopefully, you're becoming a stronger one. Currently, I am what I would call the reality of the storm, accepting what is. When I lost my job, it wasn't about losing income. It was about losing identity, purpose, a community, and knowing damn well that there are so many people that walked in those doors that weren't just there for an aesthetic. They were there because they felt a sense of community, a belonging. They felt that they were able to come as they were and were supported because of it. For me, I wasn't worried about myself. I was worried about my team and our members, because at the end of the day, if I have learned anything, it's that I am a damn good leader. And it's because I put them before myself. And instead of focusing on my needs and my insecurities and my instabilities, I focused on providing as much normalcy as I possibly could and trying to find ways to help everybody enjoy our final days together. I have built so much of my sense of worth and productivity and purpose that when this piece of my life suddenly vanished, I felt untethered. I woke up on Sunday and just stared at the ceiling in tears, because I did not know what was next. I didn't know what I wanted, where to go, or how to even regroup, because I have been in this situation before. There's something so disorienting when you wake up on that day and you realize the structure that you have relied on is completely gone. You start to question everything, your purpose, your timing, even your faith in yourself and in life. And these first couple days, I'm going to be honest, I tried to fight it. I tried to stay busy, to stay distracted, but that's not resilience, that's avoidance. Real resilience begins when you stop running from what is happening. When you look at your life, even in the chaos and mess, and say, I didn't choose this, but I can choose how I respond. That shift from resistance to acceptance is where you start to reclaim your power. So in this episode, we're going to go through a series of reflection questions in each segment, because if I am learning anything, this is not black and white. And the answer to how I regroup and try to move forward is not going to come simply changing my resume into applying to jobs. So when you're in this storm, when you're really in the thick of your life falling apart as well, here are the questions I've been asking myself. Number 1, what is one truth about your current situation that you've been resisting or avoiding? Now, I'm not going to answer all of these because this podcast would be 1,000,000 minutes long, but I'll answer this one. If I really sit down and let myself be open and honest, one truth about my current situation that I've been resisting and avoiding is that the last 4 months had been really unstable. There had been a lack of support, accountability. My job was becoming increasingly stressful because I was having to pick up pieces and do more than I should have had to do when I'm already juggling 3 jobs. So I was the head coach, I became the social media manager, and I was coordinating every single event, challenge, everything on my own. And when I really think about it, I was increasing this level of stress. And honestly, at times, I was becoming almost angry at how much had fallen on my plate, how much I was doing, but I wasn't feeling like I was even being recognized or appreciated because of that. The second question, how have you been protecting yourself from feeling the full weight of what's happening? Question number 3, if you stopped asking, why me, and started asking, what now, how would that shift your focus? Question number 4, what does acceptance look like for you right now, even if it's uncomfortable? And the last question, what emotions have you been trying to control instead of allowing yourself to feel? And I'll answer that one. I had to be strong for everybody this last month. And honestly, it prevented me from actually being able to understand, accept, and prioritize my own needs because so much of this had fallen on myself. I truly felt abandoned in this last month. And if it wasn't for my coaches and our members, I genuinely don't know if I would have been able to make it through this month with just the way the series of events had transpired. And because of that, I literally was holding my emotions in. The anger, the fear, the true, genuinely feeling almost depressed because you had given so much to something and it was all over and you didn't even get a say in how it ended. I was keeping all of that down because I was so afraid that if I really addressed everything that was upsetting me at the time, I was going to lose my shit. And I did not want that to be the way that I went out. And so for me, I really was not allowing myself to even grieve the process, which is why I feel so lost as I am filming this podcast, because I am just starting the process of acceptance. Now, transitioning into the second segment of today's podcast, I've labeled it Managing Stress When Everything Feels Unstable, because ladies and gentlemen, we are there right here, right now. After the shock wore off and our owner told us what was happening, the stress hit so hard and so heavy. It's the kind that doesn't just live in your mind, it truly lives in your body. I started having what felt like developing panic attacks again, which really freaked me out because my chest started getting tighter. I was already fatigued from not being well, and then being fatigued from having to pick up shifts, having to do more, having to answer so many questions and hold so much space for so many emotions that I was struggling to fall asleep and then waking up anxious multiple hours throughout the night before my day even begun, which if you don't know this, I wake up at 3:30 in the morning because I have to be at work at 4:30 a.m. And because I was so wired to push through, I tried to outwork my stress, tried to muscle through it, but that led to this deeper exhaustion I felt in these last couple weeks. What I had to learn the hard way, because hello, this is who we're talking about, it's that resilience doesn't start in your head, it starts in your body. When your nervous system is in survival mode, your brain can't think clearly. You can't create, you can't problem solve, you can't heal. So for me, I couldn't even apply to jobs. I tried, but I realized that if this was all going to fall on me and I was going to navigate this alone, I had to be present and I had to put myself on the back burner. So I went back to the basics: movement, breath, and presence. I started taking short walks, making sure I was focusing on my breath work. I wasn't burning calories. I wasn't trying to work out because I was just trying to regulate my nervous system. I was having conversations with myself, almost like pep talks, as I would drive to the studio, trying to hype myself up and help myself get through this. I started giving myself permission to rest without guilt, many times just laying on the couch or in my bed, watching a show but not really watching it because I wasn't comprehending what was going on because my head was full of thoughts of what the hell is going to happen next. The goal wasn't to eliminate the stress because it's not going anywhere. It was to remind my body that I was safe, even when everything felt unstable. Because resilience, my friends, isn't built through control, it is built through the calm. Your reflection questions from this section start as followed. Number 1, when you're overwhelmed, what is your default response, and does it truly help or does it just numb the stress? I have 2 responses when life falls apart. 1, I want to disappear and run away. It is my MO to just pick up and leave, but when I found out how expensive it was to get out of my lease, I realized that my ass was not going anywhere. And 2, my default response is to completely shut down. Don't eat, barely sleep, don't work out, nothing. Nothing beneficial other than over-caffeinating to get through the hours you're required to be present and do nothing to help yourself in this situation. Completely toxic if we're being honest. Question number 2, what 3 activities calm your body before your mind? Think walking, stretching, journaling, breathing, or even just quiet. Question number 3, who or what helps you feel grounded when everything feels chaotic? Question number 4, what physical signs tell you you're hitting your limit and how can you respond earlier next time? And question number 5, what boundary could you set this week that would make space for your peace? Once I caught my breath, I started to see something I hadn't before. This is what I call reflection and redirection, when life detours your plans. Maybe this wasn't punishment, even though it really does feel like I'm being punished. Maybe it was redirection. The loss of my job, the slowdown, the unexpected pause, all of it, I'm realizing, is enabling me to create space. I didn't know I needed it, if we're being completely honest. For years now, almost 4, going on 5 actually, I've been running at full speed. Coaching, creating, building, showing up for everybody else. But this season is forcing me to sit with myself, which is really hard. To listen, to ask myself questions that I've been avoiding, because this is not the life that I wanted for myself, because it stopped feeling aligned months ago. And I realized this in what felt like a really simple situation, but that actually really hurt my heart. So I had taught 1,000 classes at this studio, and I taught my 1,000th class in silence. There was no recognition. There was no celebration. There was nothing. 1,000 classes in less than a year, which is literally crazy if you think about it, when there's only 365 days in a year, and most days I was teaching 4 to 6 classes. It's hard when you are the person that recognizes everybody, supports everybody, loves on everybody. And when this moment comes that you feel like you should be having that energy reciprocated, nothing happened. I created a reel celebrating it because I knew that this was an incredible accomplishment. And even very few people in my organization outside of our members even bothered to click like or even write a comment. And that's when I really started questioning, was I in alignment? Was I where I should be? And was I appreciated? And even though some people do appreciate me, and I know that, there are some people that didn't, who made my life harder than it had to be. And at times, I honestly think it was intentional, that the lack of recognition and hard work I was putting in were ever even given a thank you. That's where I think the redirection started. I just wasn't quite ready to see it, because it exposes what you never were meant to be, where you never were meant to be, and honestly, maybe what you weren't meant to be carrying. Sometimes what feels like a setback or a missed opportunity is honestly an invitation. It's an invitation to pivot, to redefine, to rise differently. And for me, it was a moment of reflection, of leadership, of what kind of leader I wanted to be and the leaders that I was experiencing and witnessing. For me, when I had this moment of just complete sadness and lack of recognition of so much hard work, I told myself that when one of my coaches hit this milestone, they would be recognized, they would be noticed, and they would feel just how much love and appreciation I had for them. Because I do have a firm belief in my life, and I know not everybody agrees with me on this. I do think we're going to answer to the way we lived our life one day. I don't know how or what that will look like, but in my head, even when I'm not appreciated, even when I have people talking shit about me or trying to belittle me or play these insane power struggle moments, I can rise above, and I don't have to reciprocate that petty ass energy. I can be better than the circumstances and situations I am experiencing. And that is what I really tried to do. So here are your reflection questions because of all of that. Number 1, what recent situation feels like a setback, but might actually be a redirection? For me, that was teaching my 100th class in silence. Number 2, what lesson or message is the detour that is trying to reveal to you? So when you are being faced with these lessons, or maybe these very loud messages from the universe, they're detours. What is it trying to tell you? Number 3, what version of success were you chasing that might not fit your purpose anymore? For me, I'm realizing that rebuilding and building companies for investors and owners and having nothing to show for it now for the second time is not my purpose and is not the direction I want my life to go anymore. Franchise fitness for me is not it, because at the end of the day, it literally can all be taken away from you and you have nothing. Number 4, where are you being asked to surrender instead of push? And number 5, how might this unexpected change be preparing you for something greater? A question I'm being faced with, but I'm not ready to answer yet. These last few months have been a shedding season, not by choice, but by necessity. Shedding to grow becomes the rebirth phase. I've had to let go of old routines, old expectations, and even some relationships that no longer align with the direction I'm headed, and that all came from my illness. Getting as sick as I did and really watching all of my plans dissipate because I was physically not well enough to do all of the things I had anticipated doing this year, that was hard. And it got even harder when I realized that everything I thought was going to come to fruition no longer was. And because of that, other people became less interested in being a part of my life. And it's hard because when you're somebody like myself who's built her life around showing up for others and that energy isn't reciprocated, it's a valuable life lesson that comes with heartache. I've learned that sometimes strength isn't about holding on, it is about releasing. You can't carry everything and still evolve. The heavier your hands, the harder it is to reach for something new. I had to grieve the version of myself who defined worth by productivity, and I'm currently there right now. I'm grieving the woman who thought being strong meant never breaking down, the woman who kept pouring into everybody else before ever refilling her own cup. And the more I realize that I have to let go, the more I've realized that shedding isn't loss, it's actually necessary growth. Like trees in the fall, they don't resist the change. They release what's no longer serving them, trusting that the new growth will come in its time. Reflection questions. Number 1, what parts of your identity were built around survival that you no longer need? Number 2, what beliefs about success, worth, or control are you ready to release? Number 3, who or what are you still holding on to because it feels familiar, not because it feels aligned? Number 4, what would it look like to trust your own evolution, even if it's misunderstood? Which I think is what is happening right now in my life. I think that I didn't trust myself enough to build a company, to build a brand, to be successful enough on my own. I think I thought I had to have an investor, an owner, somebody leading and me reciprocating that leadership. And I'm realizing now that I have all of these separate entities, my podcasts, my book, my online coaching company, which has now been launched into a Shopify store with a bunch of different offerings. Over the years, like my ebooks, I have been creating all of these things. Now I'm expanding my online free wellness community. I've had all of these pieces for years, and I've always continued to evolve and improve them. And I thought I needed somebody else. But I'm realizing that even though at times I'm misunderstood, maybe it's time to trust my own evolution. And number 5, what are you making space for by letting go of what's no longer yours to hold? For me, this is 40 to 50, some weeks it was 60 hours of work for somebody else, building somebody else's company, somebody else's dream. And now I have space and I have to figure out what I'm supposed to do with it, because it was never my company, and I'm learning that the hard way. Resilience isn't a one-time breakthrough. It's a practice. It's a way of living. Building emotional resilience requires an action plan. And it's not built through perfection or hustle. It's built through intention and recovery. Here's what that's looked like for me previously and now again, and how you can start strengthening your own resilience muscles. Number 1, accept, don't avoid. You can't heal what you refuse to acknowledge. I have had to face the reality of job loss on more than one occasion since living in Tampa. The uncertainty, the grief, and instead of pretending I was fine, because I'm not, I had another freaking breakdown at work today and was just literally crying in the corner as I was trying to do my patient chart reviews. I had to think about this. What truth are you avoiding because it feels too heavy to face? And for me, I am literally terrified. I am terrified because previously when this happened, my TBI had just happened. Imagine that. Imagine being in a terrible car accident, suffering a traumatic brain injury, and losing your job. I had to think about that because I know how critical it is for me to have routine in order to navigate my TBI. And I am terrified to have free time because I know that I almost go awry. Second question, how might naming it help you reclaim your sense of control? Step number 2 is to simplify your focus. When everything feels uncertain, clarity comes from simplicity. I am learning to focus on what truly matters, my health, my peace, and my purpose. So I'm asking you, what 3 things actually deserve your energy right now? And what can you release that's draining you and not serving you? Step number 3, you have to reframe the narrative. The story you tell yourself becomes your reality. And I am trying to lose the narrative that I've lost everything. And I'm trying to remind myself that I am rebuilding on stronger ground. So ask yourself, what story are you telling yourself about this season of life? And what would happen if you wrote a new one that empowers instead of limits? Step number 4, reconnect to your purpose. Purpose doesn't disappear when circumstances change. I may have lost my job, a company I've been building for 2 years, but I haven't lost my vision or my mission to impact, to empower, and to lead through truth. So I'm asking you, what part of your purpose remains steady even when life shifts? And how can you express it daily even in the smallest of ways? And our final step, practice emotional recovery daily. Rest is not weakness, it's fuel. I've been intentional about creating small rituals of recovery. I'm allowing myself to start when I wake up with quiet mornings, giving myself 30 minutes of tossing and turning just to focus on my thoughts and where I'm at. I have decided to not respond in real time to a lot of conversations and questions people are asking me. I've allowed my phone to go unanswered because right now I just need space to breathe. So what's one daily ritual that will help you refill your energy? And how can you commit to protecting that recovery like it's sacred because it has to be? Ladies and gentlemen, resilience isn't about never falling apart. It's about learning how to rebuild when you do. You can walk through uncertainty, grief, and loss and still somehow come out stronger. Not because you never broke, but because you allowed yourself to bend. If you're in the storm right now like I am, I see you. I know just how utterly painful it feels because we don't have all the answers and we don't have to. We just need the courage to keep showing up even when life is uncertain and messy. Because, ladies and gentlemen, we both know this one thing. Storms don't last forever, and eventually the skies are going to clear, and we will realize that we weren't breaking, we were just becoming. This is Mindset, Health, and Empowerment, the Unfiltered Trainer podcast, where we strip away the noise and choose alignment over hustle, truth over protection, and impact over approval. If you're looking for a safe space, I have decided to take the Impact Society from Facebook, which was previously an online group, and I built it in a school community thanks to a recommendation from one of my coaches, Tyler. It's new. I'm figuring it out as we go along, but I share that because I think a lot of people need a space that they can be as they are, where they can learn and grow without feeling like you're in competition with somebody that you should just be collaborating with instead. So as I'm working through this, I am putting my focus into that. I'm putting my focus into my offerings, which are all now linked to my Shopify storefront, from online workout access to ebooks for those that just want to follow a simplified plan, to those that need one-on-one online coaching. I built a company 12 years ago in a brand called Gina Marie Fit. It has been ever evolving, and now more than ever, I'm going to tap into what my purpose is, which is making an impact that directly aligns with those I am helping, and continuing to focus on my purpose-driven mission of being the kind of people we wish to see in this world. Hopefully today's episode helps you. It helps you regroup, realign, rethink the decisions and questions you are facing, the fear and the uncertainty, and just know that even somebody you see on the internet doing a lot is also going through a lot. Don't ever feel like you're alone. Until next time, stay unfiltered, stay authentic, and keep living fully as you are able while giving yourself space to grieve, to redirect, to realign, and to really think about, are you in a purpose-driven space of alignment, or are you in a position of survival? I'll see you in the next episode.